What up guys, Adrian from YouMotorcycle.com here, and just over a year ago I found myself without a job, and I had been doing this YouMotorcycle.com thing for so many years and doing other local motorcycle stuff here in Toronto, Canada, that I thought, you know what, I wonder if I can make a full-time living, at least for a while, because it was the start of the season, just doing strictly motorcycle stuff, some online, mostly online, some offline too. And I made a lot of mistakes along the way, so I kind of calculated 8 mistakes that were sort of the really big ones that I made with my motorcycle business this year. And I thought, just for keeping myself in check and also maybe just sharing with you guys, I would let you guys know what some of my big mistakes of the year were in my first year being totally self-employed in the motorcycle industry. So the first mistake I made was definitely buying on ideals rather than my reality. And you start things and you're really gung-ho and you're all excited. And so I ended up, I bought this really fancy DSLR, and it can shoot 1080p and all kinds of stuff, and great frame rate, great lens on it. And I forgot that my reality, I was gonna take all these awesome pictures and stuff and all this great video footage. And I think I've used the thing like 4 times, and I think using it took me maybe 8 times longer than if I had just used a phone or just a regular point and shoot camera. And it was nothing but a bad experience, because my ideal was I was going to be putting out these beautiful pictures and this beautiful cinematographic stuff. I can't even say cinematographic. That should have been my first clue. I was not going to be able to record this stuff. That was my ideal, but my reality was that I cannot use this thing. It drives me crazy. Whenever I do try and use it, I screw something up. It takes me way longer. So yeah, first mistake, buying on ideals rather than reality. Moral of the story is, wait until you know exactly what you need and then buy it, and then that way you won't be wasting a bunch of money for something that's going to be like worse than a paperweight, because it just takes you longer to do everything. The second lesson I learned about what I did wrong in my business this first year was not spending money on better quality. So I thought I'd be buying based on my ideals, got that DSLR, but what I really should put that money towards was just stuff like rust proofing, or stuff that already was rust proofed. Especially being here in Canada, rust with any kind of vehicle stuff like motorcycles, rust is a big killer, because we put salt on our roads during the winter to not have ice form, and that stuff is like dusty and it gets everywhere and it just starts corroding everything. And even with a lot of WD-40 and clean and stuff like that, I should have just spent the money on getting stuff rust proofed. There's like a crown spray that you can use or get done. And I should have spent the money on just a lot of other little things where a little bit more quality. For example, stainless steel ratchets instead of just regular ratchets would have gone a long way too. So lesson learned, spend a little bit more on the stuff that you realistically need, and that's going to realistically be that much better than just the base model. All right, so the third mistake that I made in my business this year was not answering people sooner. And I thought I had, I was never like super hustle. I was always kind of hustling, but I never felt like someone's called me, I need to call them back within 30 seconds or that's lost business. But really it kind of turned into, if I don't get back to someone within 30 seconds, I need to consider that lost business. That's sort of been my change in mindset. Before, everything I was doing, it was a side hustle. And when I transitioned from side hustle to the hustle, what I realized was that people aren't willing to wait, because they're gonna assume if you didn't answer, you're never gonna call them again, and they'll just call somebody else and find somebody else to do what they were going to hire you to do. So moral of the story is, yeah, get back to customers ASAP. That was one mistake that I learned, luckily fairly early on. I had a customer and he said to me, I'm glad you answered right away, because the other guy I tried to reach after an hour, I still hadn't heard from him. And I thought, okay, so the expectation here is that within an hour, I need to get back to people. So now I always try and get back to people within half an hour, just to try and beat that. I don't even know what number of mistake I'm on, but another one was not taking advantage of email enough. So what I was doing with a lot of my bookings and gigs and service work and whatnot was, I had a huge database of people's names, what kind of bikes they had, year, make, model, and their phone numbers, but I didn't collect their emails. And that would have helped me, because every time I was doing a new service or a new package or new whatever, I could have just sent out one email to all of these people to be like, hey, guess what? Got this new thing. It's available. You already know me. We've done business before. You should check it out. And I really just had these phone numbers, and I wasn't going to go and kind of cold call or at least warm call, hundreds and hundreds of people. But if I had collected everyone's email address right from the get-go, I would have been able to, in one click, get the message out to everybody. And that was definitely a miss. And I have a marketing background, so I really should have known this. But I guess, again, it was that transition of just a side hustle thinking versus primary hustle thinking. And yeah, that was a lesson learned. That was a mistake. Another mistake that I made, again, coming from a side hustle background, was not keeping tabs on all of my customers, not keeping notes on all my customers. So I kind of knew who they were when it was just, a couple bikes here and there that I was working on or whatever it was. And then all of a sudden it became a couple bikes a week, and then it became kind of a couple bikes a day sometimes. And then after that, it was people would say, "Hey, it's me, so and so," and I would have no clue who they were, and I felt terrible because I would have no clue who they were until I saw them face to face, and I'm like, "Oh, it's you! Right, I know you. You're the guy we worked on your," and then I'm still drawing a bike because I can't remember what the hell we worked on. So the moral of the story is, yeah, definitely keep notes on all your customers, not just what you did for them, but also keep note of like what they wanted to do next. Hey, did you ever like get that thing problem sorted out, that upgrade that you wanted, those tires, whatever it is, because it helps you so much, whether it's just building that one-to-one relationship or actually being able to upsell them or whatever. Just keeping track of where they're at goes such a long way, and it really creates that personal touch. And I wasn't doing that at first, and I really regret it, and I'm really glad I'm doing it now. All right, when I first got started, I was not like self-promoting at all. I was in the background, and my friends knew to recommend me and stuff like that, but I wasn't actively trying to network. I wasn't actively trying to make connections with people or network with people. And I think not networking enough is another big mistake that I made. Versus now, it's like now I got a bunch of, it's really cool when you have your peers recommending you. Not your peers as in like your friends or your family, your mom, whatever. But when you have business owners within your industry saying, "Hey, you know who's really good at that? Call up this guy Adrian, he'll solve your problem." And I'm Adrian. And when I hear that a business owner who's well respected, has good standing in the industry, in our local industry here, is saying, "You should talk to this guy," to me, that's not only a huge compliment, it's a nice little bump to my business. And it just makes me feel like, wow, this is cool. This is something I'm really excited about because that guy says I'm good. And it's not a matter of not having like the internal confidence. It's just a matter of like, it's a nice like slow clap that you feel for half a second, and you get on and you do your job, and it's awesome. So to everyone recommending me, thank you. And to everybody watching this who is a small business owner or wants to be a small business owner, definitely network because it totally pays for itself. Okay, it's like 600 degrees in this garage, so I'm gonna try and wrap this up quickly. The last two things, one of them is I didn't have a strategy for collecting tips at first. There was nothing. There was like, I don't even think that people thought to ask themselves, do I even want to tip this guy? And that was a big mistake on my part. I should have been kind of thinking about that. Like I worked 6 years in a bar, so I really should have been thinking like, how do I make it easy for people to tip me? Because when I worked at the bar, I had a glass and I would pre-tip myself. So by the time, even if you were the first customer in the building, you got to my bar, you saw I already had a glass with money in there. Maybe it looked weird, whatever, it worked. So I set up my point of sale system. So now it actually, when I do a transaction, it actually prompts you, do you want to leave a tip? That's one way. Two, I have a little sign about tipping, whatever. So just little subtle things. I never, ever ask for a tip verbally. I also never try and be like, when they see the point of sale, asking them for a tip, I'm always like 4 steps away, looking that way. I'm never putting them in a position where I'm like, are you gonna put the tip button? You gonna click that? Like I'd never ever do that. So I don't recommend you do, but having a little subtle suggestion, it made such a difference. So something for you guys to think about. And the very last one, I want to try and rush through these because it's hot in here, is basically putting off buying things that I would buy eventually anyway. There was some stuff that I knew that I needed, and I knew I was gonna need them sooner or later, and then COVID hit. And I don't know about where you are, but where I am with Canada Post, having stuff shipped around just made everything take like months. So I got caught a little bit flat-footed where I knew I needed things, and it was just no longer a question of being able to get it within 24, 48 hours. It was like, you'll get it in like 4 weeks. And when you need stuff for business, you can't wait 4 weeks, right? So luckily I was smart enough that I always had backup stuff like straps, whatever. But I like to have backups so that I can use my backups. And when I use my backups right away, I order new backups and then they're there the next day. And when I can't count on them to be the next day because COVID's got shipping all messed up, that's when I start to get a little nervous. So moral of the story is start with what you already have. It's probably good enough, but if you know you're going to need something sooner or later anyway, just hurry up and get it now. Anyway, first year for a new business is always a lot of like growing pains. Luckily for me, there was nothing really terrible or bad that happened. There was one customer I needed to kind of do a correction with, but that was like a one-off one time. Everything else went really, really well. I learned, those 8 mistakes. A lot of those are kind of rookie common sense things, but once you're in the field, you're kind of just focused on whatever it is your next task you have to do, and you're not really always, it hasn't become routine yet, right? So hopefully these little things that I kind of made mistakes on will help you not make the same mistakes. And I know that I've already kind of corrected all 8 of these things, and I'm sure hopefully maybe a year from now I'll have 8 more things that I screwed up. But until now, hopefully that was good for you guys. Please hit that like button if you like the video. Please hit subscribe for more content. Thank you guys so much for watching and helping me grow my YouTube channel. It is really awesome of you guys. I do appreciate it. Thank you. Ride safe. Peace.